So therefore I can be in that emotional state. I can be in the emotional state where the New World Order is already lost. It's already lost. We've already won. This is just how it happened. I have absolutely no fear of what's going on in the world. And so I can look at this information, I can acknowledge the negative stuff in the world, but it doesn't worry me because it's just information, because I know in my heart and in my whole being that this battle is already won. But the time it takes for that to manifest in this reality, the time it takes for this beautiful world to manifest, depends on the amount of people who can center themselves in that love and be able to face this dark energy as just information in order to address this dark energy that's in our world. And we've got a lot of women who are incredibly powerful. These are incredibly powerful spiritual beings. We have a whole generation of these spiritual beings that have been absorbed into this New Age movement, who are convinced that if they look at anything bad, they're going to give power to it, instead of looking at it and addressing it to fix it. I mean, all of this conspiracy movement, this was pointed out by a poster in my forums, a wonderful post by a lady in there where she said that all of the people who are speaking out against this New World Order conspiracy, it's all males. And we males have a certain male energy. As much as we're in touch with ourselves, and as much as we're in touch with spirituality, as much as we're centered, as much as we know about energy, whatever, we still have this male energy about us. She pointed out that my website, The Crow House, it's very dark. It's a male energy. My website appeals to males more than it does to females. And then when you get females that are trying to talk about this stuff, they have websites that are pink and lilac, that no self-respecting male would stay on for more than 10 seconds. So you've got this, there's no balance. You've got a lot of the men scaring the women off, and you've got a lot of the women scaring the men off. There's no people that are trying to address both sides of the energy. And there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful, powerful women in the New Age movement that simply won't look at the negative stuff. It's a beautiful young lady that who is a girlfriend of a young friend of mine, the man who helped me with the calling. Beautiful, wonderful, wonderful young girl, incredibly powerful spiritual person, but she won't look at the dark side because she's an empath. She feels the dark side, but the reason she won't look at it, if she would just look within herself and see, is because of fear. Because of fear, that feeling, is that darkness overwhelms her. She doesn't understand that it's just information. It isn't the information that's bad, it's the emotion that she's attaching to that information. If she could put her energy into addressing this dark information, I tell you folks, if we had a women's group stand up and say, hey, we know what you're doing with your New World Order, we know what you're doing with your vaccinations, we know about all of this stuff that all these people talk about, we know about this stuff, and we want the problem fixed, we want it addressed right now. If we got a women's group to stand up and say this, folks, we'd change the world overnight. You know what these women's groups can do? There wasn't even an investigation into 9/11 until a women's group got involved. That whole 9/11 Commission report, whitewashed piece of garbage that it was, it still would never have been produced if it wasn't for the women going and hassling the government and saying, hey, look, we want an investigation, we're not happy with what you're doing. Now, men can scream out this stuff all the time. Men don't listen to us. All the government's run by men, so they don't listen to men screaming out. But you get a bunch of women in there, they get that goddess energy happening, whoa, they can move mountains. They can really move mountains. If we could get some of these people, some of these incredibly powerful spiritual people, to simply step away from the fear, to truly understand how things work, and to address the darkness that we ourselves have allowed to become manifest in this world, we could fix the problems. We could fix them very, very easily. I think that's something that really really seriously needs to be looked at. And something else that I said on the show last week was that evolution of consciousness, the evolution of consciousness that we are all involved in, is a two-step process. And the first step lies within this physical reality. And humanity needs to acknowledge the negatively polarized energies that have become resident within this physicality in order to change them so that the consciousness that we are all part of is free to evolve. And more often, the choice that's made to ignore these polarized energies that are manifest in this reality is because it's a choice made from fear. If people will just step away from the fear, it's just information. You have to acknowledge the flaws that are manifest in this reality and face them and make a stand to fix them. We really, really do have to do this, folks. That's why I believe it's so important to try to reach this goddess energy and get the women involved in what's going on. I know there is a lot of women involved, but we need a real movement. We need a groundswell of consciousness amongst women of these issues. We need these beautiful, wonderful, powerful creatures to stand up. We really do. And like I said, folks, you can look at this dark information. It doesn't worry me because I'm in a state of unconditional love. I don't attach negative emotion to information. Most people think they're attaching emotion to negative information. They're not. What they're doing is they're attaching negative emotion to information because it's just information. You see, that's the thing. It's putting away the fear, folks. A lot of these women, she knows that the world is heading for a beautiful place. She knows that the consciousness is rising. So, what's to fear? What's to fear about addressing the darker side of what's happening in this physicality? Because the sooner that darker side is addressed, then the sooner the consciousness will evolve as it should. But too many people think, well, I don't have to address it because in 2012 the world's going to change. Well, the evolution of consciousness that everybody's waiting for comes down to free will. It comes down to the freedom of choice of the people. And unless we face the shadow self, then, well, we're going to be in for a rude awakening. I see 2012 as the tipping point. We can go either way. We can truly go either way. And I know which way I would like the consciousness to go. See, if you know that the world is wonderful, that the battle is already won, that this consciousness is evolving to a higher plane the way it is supposed to do, then what's to fear? What is to fear about bad information? The information that's coming into you is not bad, it's not negative. What is bad and what's negative is the way you are receiving the information. It's information, so it should be empowering. All information is empowering, especially information about the darkness, because that gives you the opportunity to fix the problem. And rather than something to fear, it would be something that you would be concerned about. I mean, fear often brings inaction through emotional paralysis, whereas concern about a problem tends to make someone wish to take positive steps to address that concern and to remedy that concern. There's nothing to fear, folks. There's nothing to fear. There are several things we need to be concerned about, and we need to fix them. But there's truly nothing to fear. And this is a really hard nut to crack with the New Age movement. And I believe that this is a lot of why the New Age movement was created. Because this is the time of the quickening. The people who are in control of this place, they know all about these cycles, folks. They know all about these cycles that happen every 26,000 years. We have one of these cycles where we have a quickening. The consciousness rises to a new level. This happens all the time. This is part of the rotational mechanism of this galaxy. This is the way it works. So they create these movements in order to siphon off a lot of that energy and keep it distracted in this little whirlpool on the side, running around in circles, banging its head against a wall, never really getting anywhere, thinking that if I simply ignore all the bad stuff, I'm going to change the world. Well, yeah, this New Age movement's been going since the 1960s, folks, and if you look at the world now, compared to what it was like in the 1960s when the New Age movement started, well, I tend to think that it's a lot worse, folks. We've got a lot of issues and problems and environmental damage and social upheaval that has manifested itself since the early 60s. I don't think that the New Age movement has helped stop any of that. In fact, I think it's actually exacerbated the problem simply because it has kept people from ever addressing these issues.